Hello and welcome to episode 109 of MMO Weekly, presented as always by Chitty's Cheesesteaks. I'm your host, Sal Manzo, joined by MMO's very own Mathias, Altman-Kurosaki, and Christian DeBlock. Guys, thanks as always for coming on, man. Appreciate both of you.
Yeah, and thanks for having us on again.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And I think the last time we spoke, since then, the Mets have won 3 series in a row, dating back to the Diamondbacks, and then the Cubs and the Pirates were just in town. 3 really good, 1 on the road, 2 at home, 3 series. Mets continue to get big hits when they need it. The pitching continues to be outstanding, especially the starting staff. And this bullpen seems to keep, finding a way to plug along here. Mathias, I'll start with you. So just kind of your thoughts over the last few series here with what the Mets have done.
Yeah, I'll say this much. They bounced back really nicely from their one rough patch. They lost a couple series. They lost that series to the Cardinals at Busch Stadium. They lost the 2 of 3 to Arizona, and they split with the Nationals. But that series in Arizona, they took a big step forward, got their second crack at the Diamondbacks. Soto had that 2-homer game, his second 2-homer game against the Diamondbacks. Senga was great again. They all kind of chipped in during that series. And then the Cubs, I thought really that proved they can hang with the big boys. The Central leading Cubs. They were the only other team that hadn't lost 3 games in a row coming into that series. The Mets handed them their 3rd loss in a row. And the 2 games they won were pretty convincing. And they were hitting the ball out of the yard. And even the 1 game they lost, they almost came back from a 4-0 deficit. So those 2 series were really well and went really well. Even the Pirates, they won 2 of 3. They weren't the cleanest 2 wins, but I mean, they got the job done. And really, I mean, there isn't a lot to complain about over these last few weeks, and really this whole season. I mean, they're 28-16.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cubs series for me was a nice barometer for where this team is at the moment. Because again, there's been a lot of series against teams that maybe not everybody's fully convinced on the Mets, but I think winning 2 of 3 against the Cubs, and then again, Paul Skeens that start on Monday, they really caused a lot of problems for him. So again, beating the Pirates 2 of 3 is maybe not something that really means much for a lot of people, but I think the way they performed against the Cubs and then the way they performed against Paul Skeens, I think is just a nice touch going off of all the good wins they've had so far this season. So I think you're right, Mathias. Just they've really given us not much to really complain about this moment. So it's been a really good start, and I think that's shown over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you both make good points. I mean, I look back to the Pirates series, here now that just finished. Close games. Obviously, the Mets didn't play their best. The Pirates did their best to kind of blow some leads late or whatever. But the Mets did what they were supposed to. They beat a team that they were far superior than. You have to take advantage of that, whether it's pretty or not, and they did so. And I agree as far as with the Cubs, it's that barometer. Do I think the Cubs are going to last all year? I don't really know. They have a lot of guys playing over their skis at the moment. Pitching's been good. You see how long that lasts. If they can get it kind of through the grind of the summer. But like you said, it's a good barometer. They haven't lost 3 games in a row. There's something to be said there. And they continue to kind of, get clutch hitting. The Lindor continues to do what he does. We saw what he did on Mother's Day late. Alonso stays hot. And Juan Soto's starting to pick up. Granted, it seems like he only does things with nobody on base. We could talk about that a little bit. But, he's if you look at his numbers, he's right where, anybody, if you did kind of a blind test, would be, I think, okay with right now. Still getting on base at a high rate. And, someone that we'll get into a little bit as well, Brett Baty, has really showed, making the most of his opportunity coming back up here. Obviously, Vientos seems to be showing a little bit more life, but Baty's kind of been tearing the cover off the ball the last few games, hitting the ball in the air, hitting the ball out of the park, and, seems to be making the most of his opportunity here now that he's called back up. So before we kind of get rolling here, Christian, I just want to get your thoughts on a guy like Baty now making the most of his opportunity once again.
I think I was surprised when they sent him down after the homer hit off Zach Wheeler. It made sense. I know they needed a Zokar to just give them a second body in center field with, obviously, Jose Siri going down. But that must have gave him some level of confidence that we haven't really seen at the big league level. Because when he came back, I think he had one maybe game where he went 0 for 3, maybe 0 for 4. But then the power has been there consistently. And I think the power to the opposite field is what impresses me most because, it's been, 2 or 3 home runs now where he's hit it that way. And that tells me that, he's really seeing the ball well at the moment. And, it's not going to be easy for him to, be there every day, but he's kind of earned that role at this point, especially with Jesse Winker down for a long period of time. I would like to see him get almost everyday playing time at this point because he's hitting the ball that well. He's got the confidence. So whether it's at second, if you have to move Acuna to the outfield at times, Jeff to McNeil at times to center field, I think you have to find a way to get him in the lineup at this point because the bat has shown life that really we've never seen from him at the big league level.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why they sent him down was they weren't sure if he'd be able to get everyday playing time in the majors. As great as that home run was against Wheeler, realistically, with Jeff McNeil coming back, and at the time, the way Luis Angel Acuna was playing, there wasn't really a spot for him, unfortunately, at least at an everyday level. I think at this point, though, he's proving he should be playing every day. I think ideally, you have him playing third, you have Vientos DHing. Unfortunately, Starling Marte just isn't hitting much right now, and you have one of Acuna or McNeil at second and one of them in center. Really, I think he has stepped up. I mean, he's 6 for 19 this month with 4 home runs. He's already at 5 homers this year, and he's never hit more than 9 in a big league season. He hit 4 last year in 50 games. So, and yeah, to your point, his opposite field power. I was there on Friday when he took Jameson Tyone deep to the opposite field. That was really impressive. He hit another opposite field home run against the Cubs the next day, one of his 2, and then the home run on Tuesday against Mitch Keller. I was at that game too. That was, again, it was a pretty good pitch. He just went right with it. So yeah, he has a lot of confidence right now. And I really, really would like to see him just get everyday reps, whether it's at second or third or DH. I think that's what's best for him.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you can fit him into lineup, right? He's played multiple positions at this point. I wonder now with Vientos, obviously he seems to be getting going a little bit, we mentioned, but he seems to be largely having a bit of a sophomore slump. The league's made an adjustment to him that he's kind of struggling to make back. So I wonder at what point, do they find him in other spots like that? Does he maybe get a run at third base pretty consistently? It'll be interesting to see because you have guys like Luis Angel Acuna that you mentioned who really just, we can't talk enough about his athleticism, the speed that he brings. So, you want to get him in as much as you can. McNeil's moving around all over the down, playing center field at points and seems to be healthy, which is good. So, it'll be interesting to see where they try and configure getting Baty a run here. And kind of like you said, Christian, taking Winker's place as kind of that left-handed, platoon, whether it's DH or something to that effect. The Marte Winker platoon now kind of with Baty.
And I think with the DH thing, it's interesting because you can give Nimmo a day at DH if you want to move things around. Soto, of course, could DH at points. So I think having that left-handed DH spot open, obviously nobody wanted Winker to be missing time. That he's obviously a big piece, but I think it opens up things for Baty because there's so many different options you can now have as that left-handed DH just in spot days throughout the week.
And real quick, Mathias, before you jump in, you mentioned Nimmo. I think that's a good point to make as well. He's someone who seems to be turning around now too. Obviously, it seems like to start the year, hitting cleanup, he was really trying to sit on top of the plate, pull pitches for homers, swinging and missing a lot, not walking as much as we used to, even when he's not swinging it well. He seems to be using the opposite field more now, kind of taking what's given to him and picking his spots, and seems to be getting, kind of back to the Brandon Nimmo that we're used to. I'm wondering if it's less he's just kind of feeling his rhythm, or more that, hey, we know you bat and clean up, but we also don't want to take away from the hitter that made you successful. So let's get back to your game, kind of a little bit of turning the wheel more, as Nimmo's kind of been, as in the past, up on the order kind of guy. Mathias, let me get your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think a lot of it is also he's hitting some pretty rough luck. You look at his baseball savant page, there's a lot of red on it. He's hitting the ball really hard, and he's hitting it hard frequently. So the one concern for me really was his plate discipline.
Sure.
He's not walking at the same rate he has in the past. That's normally his calling card, but I mean, he is starting to get his results. His OPS is over 800 in May. And I mean, he could probably use a few days here and there at DH. He's made a couple of great plays. I mean, made 2 great catches against Joey Bart during that series in Pittsburgh. Really, as a whole, though, I think the cleanup spot is just kind of an issue right now. You look at, up and down the lineup, you got the top 3 who are clicking, Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, and then you get to that 4th spot, and they've just struggled to get production, I feel like, out of him, out of that spot, like the 4 and 5 spots, really. So once they figured that out, though, I think Nimmo and Vientos can switch off there. I mean, heck, you can even throw Baty in there, but I think Nimmo's starting to turn things around. That batted ball data indicates he's going to be a good hitter this year.
Yeah, and you talk about lengthening kind of the offense. We didn't even mention Francisco Alvarez yet. Coming back from his injury, not really hitting for power a ton, but hitting for average, putting the ball in play a lot, getting on base. It seems like using the opposite field a decent amount. And defensively, has seemed to really pick things up as far as receiving pitches, throwing runners out. Obviously, that was a big issue at the end of last year. Obviously, really kind of kept him out behind the plate in the playoffs. Torrens kind of took that over full time, but it seems like he really worked on that in the offseason, but especially kind of the offense. It's not more so far feast or famine with Alvarez, which was more with the past big swings, a lot of swing and miss. He seems to be trying to tighten up his zone and his barrel control a little bit more. Christian, just your thoughts on him now.
Yeah, I think that's a positive. And I know people will be focused on, okay, he's not hitting for as much power as we'd like, but the feast or famine strategy really isn't something that I think would help him develop the way he's expected to this season. So I think honestly that if he's hitting for more average, he's hitting, to all fields, singles and doubles at times, not striking out as much. I think that is a positive sign as he gets more and more rhythm. Because of course, starting the season on the injured list is not ideal for your rhythm. I think as we get into the summer months, maybe that power shows up more often. But I think in the short term, I think hitting for, the average is certainly a good thing more than a concern.
Yeah, and I think the power will come. It's I think it is for the best that he doesn't force it. Honestly, though, I think the thing that's impressed me the most is his throwing arm this year. He really struggled the last 2 years, and this year he's at 26.7%, so it's not as high as, say, what Torrens has done, but still he's doing a good job there. I think, last year he was only at 17.5%. The year before that, 13.2%, and last year he led the majors in pass balls, and the year before that he led the National League in pass balls, and he only has 1 so far this year. So he's coming along, and I'm sure eventually he'll start. He only has 1 home run this year. Came in his 2nd game of the year, but I'm sure it'll come. The RBIs will come, and you're looking at an effective all-around catcher.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll take that all around, and hopefully he stays on the field, right? I know that's kind of Alvarez's biggest thing too, is staying healthy. Hopefully he can do that the rest of the way here. And like you said, Mathias, I think the power will come. Things are heating up, the weather, and the Mets will kind of, happen too. And we'll get to Soto in a little bit. Real quick, I just want to talk Lindor. His, so prolific in the leadoff spot, and just like kind of historically now, he's starting to be one of the better offensive shortstops this game has ever seen, or has at least this generation. Christian, I just want to get your thoughts on, like, every night, especially leading off at games, it seems like he's doing something special. Late in games, obviously, had a big homer on Mother's Day. Just want to get your kind of thoughts overall on Lindor. Really just absolutely taken off here as a New York Met, and seemed to fully embrace the culture here. And, it could end up being, I would say right now, he's definitely the best Mets shortstop they've ever had.
Yeah.
But, shaping up to be one of the better shortstops ever to play the game.
I think, people were a little concerned because of the slow-ish start, and I say slow-ish because it really wasn't that slow in comparison to, what he's done in the previous seasons. But you really can't say anything negative about him at this point. I mean, he is doing everything you can ask out of a leadoff hitter, a shortstop. I know he's had a couple of defensive mistakes, but they're going to happen over the course of a season. But I think just his approach in that first inning has been the biggest eye-opener for me. I mean, there's times where he swings at the first pitch and he'll, hit an extra base hit, or he'll take, 6 or 7 pitches and really make the starting pitcher work right out of the gate. So I just think his ability to cause all kinds of problems in the beginning of the game just to go along with what he does late in games is what's impressed me the most. So Lindor's been awesome, and I really don't expect anything less out of him. He is proving his worth each and every day, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, he already has 4 leadoff homers this year. And that slump, like you said, Christian, it lasted like, I don't know, four days maybe. He started like 0 for 11, I'm pretty sure. And he's hitting 297 right now, leading the National League in hits. Really, yeah, I mean, how can anyone not love this guy at this point if you're a Mets fan? I mean, he's, easily the best shortstop the Mets have ever had. And I mean, look, I grew up with Jose Reyes in his prime. He was electric. He won a batting title. Lindor, though, I mean, he's even if his glove has taken like a slight step back this year, he's still very athletic. He still makes the plays. He's won multiple Silver Sluggers with the team. He has 2 amazing walk-up songs now. He debuted Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which is pretty great. Yeah, I mean, he's an immediate threat at the top of the lineup with his bat and with his speed, really. So, yeah, it's just amazing. He's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame with a Mets cap on, which I'm sure if you told me that, 5-6 years ago, or heck, even 2021, that he'd probably be going into the Hall of Fame as a Met, I wouldn't believe you.
Yeah, I mean, a friend said to me that and it's a good point, that I don't think you've seen a Met this clutch homer-wise late in games probably since Mike Piazza. I thought that was a really good point. He just cool, calm, collective now, especially he's taken on that leadership role. Everything goes through him, it seems like, in the clubhouse and in the dugout. So, excited to see what the full 162 this year is going to look like. And if you compare his age 31 season to another New York shortstop who played where the Mets are going to go this weekend, pretty good. Some would say better. I wouldn't say that, but some would,
But by the way, worth noting that the Mets record for leadoff homers in the season is Curtis Granderson with 7.
Wow.
And Lindor has 4 already. So there's a very
I'd back him to beat that.
Sure.
He could potentially just completely lap that. And I believe Kyle Schwarber set the record last year for the major leagues with 15. So wow. Another number. I'm not saying he's going to hit 15 leadoff homers this year, or that he needs to, but it's worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just adds another wrinkle to Lindor's greatness as a Met so far. But I want to kind of shift now from hitting to pitching. I feel like we have to talk about the Mets starters here. They've been brilliant, especially Kodai Senga. Another great couple outings here over the last, couple of series. Seems like I think he's got a sub-2 ERA at this point. Pitching late in games, that ghost fork is forking. Seems like he's striking out the world along with Clay Holmes, who's, another seems like great David Stearns diamond in the rough pitching signing here. So, Christian, just want to get your thoughts here on the Mets really, run as the best starting staff in the National League here so far.
I think Senga's, taken his starts one at a time at this point. And I think as he's gotten to, the last couple of weeks, I think we've seen closer to what we saw in his rookie season. I think honestly, the thing that impresses me the most is when he gets in trouble, how effective that forkball is. I mean, there's definitely this week, the last start, the amount of times where there was guys in scoring position, less than 2 outs, and he found a way to get out of it without giving up anything. I think that really tells me a lot about how much that forkball is really causing problems for opposing hitters. So, I mean, Senga was brought in to be, a frontline starter, a guy that you can rely on to go 6 innings, give you a quality start almost every time out. And that's starting to show itself more and more over the recent times. So, I mean, he's got I think it's like a 1.12 ERA, somewhere in that range. It's pretty impressive that he's that effective this early into his season after missing all of last season. So it's been really nice to see how he's developed.
Yeah, and I really thought he was the biggest wild card coming into this season because, I mean, really, he made 1 regular season start last year and he got hurt. And he made 2 appearances in the postseason, or I guess 3 appearances in the postseason, and wasn't particularly effective. I felt like they kind of rushed him back for the playoffs. I honestly didn't expect him to even pitch in the playoffs. But this year, he's leading the National League in ERA by a wide margin. He's at 1.22, and second is Jesus Luzardo at 2.00. So, yeah, I think that he's really evolved as a pitcher. He doesn't necessarily need to just be a strikeout artist. He can pitch to contact sometimes, but when he needs to get the Ks, I mean, you saw it against Pittsburgh, like you said, that inning where they had men scoring position, nobody out, and he struck out the next three batters, all on the forkball. And so he's pitching on the ground more. He gave up a home run in the first inning he pitched in the year and hasn't given up one since. And really, that's been a strength of this whole pitching staff. They've really done a great job at keeping the ball in the yard. So yeah, no, even on the days where they don't have their best stuff, this pitching staff just finds ways to get 5 or 6 innings, allowing no more than 3 runs, and it's David Stearns has done it again. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, between Clay Holmes, which I mentioned before, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, and even Tyler McGill's held his own. You can't ask for more out of a 5th starter there, really. And it just feels like most of these Mets are pitching into the 6th inning. And the bullpen kind of comes in, does their thing. You worry a little bit, about guys. I worry about a little bit like guys like Reed Garrett, guys that are just getting a little bit, a lot of wear early on in the season. Hopefully they can kind of level that out. And obviously you're going to get, we haven't talked about guys like Manaya and Montas coming back in the summer. That'll be kind of like, mid-season acquisitions for you to bolster the rotation. So, they've continued to weather the storm without those guys and then some. They've really flourished. So it'll be curious to, once June, July kind of rolls around, especially someone like Clay Holmes, who hasn't really started in a few years, how he, kind of goes through that so-called dead arm period these pitchers kind of go through. But as of right now, you expect these guys to make a quality start every day out of the 5 days. So, it's been really impressive so far.
Yeah, really, Canning, I feel like, has been honestly the biggest surprise of this.
Sure,
He
no doubt, yeah.
allowed the most earned runs in the American League last year, and this year he's a 2.3 ERA. I mean, you really couldn't have asked for much more out of this rotation so far.
Yeah,
I mean, I think with him, sorry, just to continue that point, I think the fact that just a change in the amount of pitches he was throwing with his fastball has been a night and day difference for Canning. I mean, it's that simple. That just using your other pitches a little more often, keeping players off balance that's really been the huge difference maker for Canning. I agree completely. I mean, I don't think anybody expected this to be anything like what Canning's provided.
Absolutely. But real quick, we'll kind of close things off with previewing the Yankees series here coming up. And we haven't really talked about Juan Soto. Figured we save him for this. Obviously, it's going to be 50,000 people booing him. I don't know. He was with the team for a year. He hit you a go-ahead home run to go to the World Series. He's not a homegrown Yankee. It's probably just, upset you lost to the Mets. It is what it is. If it was Aaron Judge, I would understand being upset a little bit more. But, hey, it should make for good theater and all that. But just kind of want to get your thoughts on what you think is going to happen this weekend. And in particular, if you think this is going to be the time that Juan Soto breaks out and really kind of shows people he's here now with the Mets.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. I think the only matchup that sort of concerns me, I'd say, is McGill pitching on Friday, the first game of the series. He's kind of struggled his last couple starts out. So I'm curious to see if he can rebound. But really, I like the Mets' chances this weekend. I actually think that I understand Max Fried is off to a great start this year, but I think the Mets' familiarity with him from his days in the Braves is going to give them an advantage here. So I think the Mets will win this series. I think they take 2 out of 3. I know they won all 4 games last year. This is 6 games this year. And yes, I do think Juan Soto is going to hit. I'm gonna say he hits 3 homers this series, but at least he's gonna have at least 1 multi-homer game this weekend. And I know he's been struggling with runners in scoring position this year. I think this is the weekend where that sort of starts to turn around. And yeah, I know it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot for him, but I think he's gonna keep it under control and really make his former team pay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think honestly, this is going to be the series that we'll look at, months down the line that Soto really kicked into fifth gear. I think I really see that happening. I just think he's someone that is not going to, you know, really struggle in the pressure. He's done it for his whole career. I don't know why we would expect him to do any less. So, 50,000 people booing him for 3 days in a row is not really going to cause him too many problems in between, all the different things going on. I expect 2 out of 3. I wouldn't be surprised if McGill bounces back. I think we've seen moments of that, but I do understand the concern because, again, the last 2 starts have been a little shakier than the first handful of those. But yeah, I think this is going to be the series for Soto. I think that's my overarching feeling. I think I wouldn't be surprised with the 3 home runs, multi-home run game. I just think this is the time where he's going to show that he is a big game player, and with all the noise around him, I just think he's going to flourish.
Yeah, should be really exciting no matter what. And if you're the Mets, give Aaron Judge the weekend off. Don't give him anything to hit and say, go to first, buddy. See you later. But should be a lot of fun. It's always great when both New York teams are good. It's great for the sport. It's great for New York. So should be a lot of fun this weekend. We'll catch you after the Yankees series to recap that. And as always, let's go Mets.